Hello world, it's me, your favorite beer-drinking, cat-loving drag queen, Sylvia'S. And I've been really depressed lately. This whole self-isolation, quarantine because of COVID-19 has kept me insanely bored. And well, there's only so much getting drunk by yourself and masturbating that you can do before you are completely and utterly mad. We all go a little mad sometimes. But that's why I'm here. I'm super excited to bring you the first episode of my brand new YouTube series, Horrorgasmo Reviews. In this series, I'm going to be reviewing all of my favorite horror movies, B-movies, cult classic movies, and I'll tell you exactly if I think you should watch them, or if they're utter trash, or if you should watch them despite the fact that they are utter trash. Some people really love garbage things. That's why I have a career after all. In our first episode today, I'm going to be counting down my 13 go-to horror movies. These aren't necessarily my favorite movies, but they're the movies that I'll watch anytime I need a pick-me-up. They're the 13 movies that I would recommend to my best friends who are just getting into horror. They're the 13 movies that I can pretty much watch in any circumstance and love no matter what. Now, shall we get started? My selection for number 13 is an all-time classic. Its name is Franken. Now, we all know the classic tale of Frankenstein. The book written by Mary Shelley in the 1800s or 1700s or the 1600s or whatever the fuck it was before television or radio was on. You know, the tale about the mad scientist who's out to prove that anybody can be God if they're smart enough or unstable enough to be a crazed genius. Only this one goes a little different. I would say it's a little bit more emotional and heartfelt. Our main character, Jeffrey Franken, is a physicist who's kind of down on his luck, who recently loses his girlfriend in a tragic lawnmower accident. Now, if you're a normal physicist who loses your girlfriend in a tragic lawn mowing accident, you would just kind of leave it be and go to her funeral and let that be the day, right? Well, not Jeffrey Franken. What Jeffrey Franken does is he decides to kill a bunch of prostitutes, cut them up into little pieces, and use their body parts to recreate his dead girlfriend even better than before. Oh, this is a tale that James Whale, Mary Shelley, and Boris Karloff intended you to see, only they couldn't get away with it into the 1980s. Now, Frank Henenlotter is the director of this, and he's known for such gems as Basket Case and Brain Damage, but I truly think that if you're going to get started watching his brand of 42nd Street trash, Frankenhooker should be your go-to. Number 12 is one that I discovered recently as it just came out, and it's called Color Out of Space. Ooh. Oh, we've all heard of H.P. Lovecraft, that crazy, crazy writer who wrote the Cthulhu mythos and created the genre of cosmic horror. Now, Color Out of Space is really unique in that it stars my all-time favorite actor, Nicolas Cage. Come on, don't pretend you don't love him. Aside from Nicolas Cage being an utter madman throughout this movie, making for a super amazing, campy good time, what else makes it so magic is its beautiful emphasis on, well, color. When it says Color Out of Space, it truly feels like you're watching brand new colors that you've never seen before. It's like taking acid for the first time, or drinking bleach, or shoving a nail in your eyeball. You certainly see things that you never expected. Anyways, this one is about this family who lives on this rural farm who aren't really doing anything. Their daughter is a witch, or at least she thinks she is. Who knows what these crazy Wiccans do these days. And like any normal family, they're just minding their own business when one day a meteor lands in their front yard, and out of it spews alien life and completely terraforms their whole entire existence into this madcap reality that they never expected coming. And then, next thing you know, the whole world is flipped upside down. Now, H.P. Lovecraft movies are usually super amazing, awesome pieces of camp that I would recommend anybody watch. Such movies as Reanimator or From Beyond, but what makes this one truly magical is the fact that it has a little bit higher of a budget, and it truly, for the first time ever, actually creates the world that H.P. Lovecraft painted in his horrifying, horrifying short stories and novels. I can't wait for you guys to get high and watch this. Speaking of truly insane and amazing horror novelists, my number 11 comes from one of the greatest horror writers of all time, Stephen King. Not only was this story written by the greatest horror novelist of all time, Stephen King, but it was directed by the greatest horror director of all time, John Carpenter. That's right, I'm talking about Christine. Christine is about Arnie Cunningham, a 17-year-old boy who falls in love with his car. Now, heteros are weird. We can all agree about that, right? If you're straight, you're weird. You have weird interests. I never understood cars. But anyway, if you're 17 years old and into cars and want to fuck them, then Christine is probably the movie that you should watch. Because what happens is Christine is
possessed by the devil.
Now, this sounds like a dumb movie concept, and truly, it absolutely is. Because who the hell would believe that a car would come to life, much less be possessed by the devil? Doesn't the devil have better things to be doing with his time? Like, I don't know, world domination, or letting his legions take over the masses, or I don't know. I'm not the devil, I'm just one of his daughters. Straight people are weird, the plot of Christine is stupid. Those are two things that I think every sane person should agree on. But Christine is not stupid, and that's in the utter magic of John Carpenter's vision. In fact, the vision of Christine coming back to life after it crashes and kills one of Arnie's enemies, and seeing it just reform into this utter mad machine, are the greatest special effects that I possibly have ever seen in a movie. And if you disagree, well, I'm sorry, but you're wrong, and we can't be friends. I'm assuming we've all seen movies like Trick or Treat, Tales of Halloween, or Creepshow. Movies that take 3 or 4 different stories and meld them into an anthology that are all necessary viewings for horror fans. It is of my opinion that none of these would be in existence if not for my selection for number 10. Kwaidan. Kwaidan is a movie that comes out of the 1960s Japan, the golden age of Japanese cinema, and what makes it truly magical is its focus on the lush, beautifully hand-painted sets, the makeup and special effects that make for a believably gory, gruesome time, and the score that absolutely gets under your skin. 60 years later, anytime I watch this movie, it reminds me that movies like Dark Water or Pulse or The Grudge wouldn't be in existence if not for the legacy of Kwaidan. It's a criminally forgotten classic that film scholars or pretentious art nerds absolutely need to see. Kwaidan. Watch it, motherfuckers. My number 9. Admittedly, is one of my ultimate fantasies. A hot, young American man in the streets of London, growing hair all over his body and trying to eat me. Oh, does somebody have a fan? It's getting hot in here. I'm talking, of course, of An American Werewolf in London. If you've never seen An American Werewolf in London, shame on you. It is a special effects feast. And the guys in this movie are all fine as hell. We can talk all day about the transformation sequence in American Werewolf in London, but it really takes a backseat to how hysterical and charming this movie is. It's about 2 friends who are lost in a foreign land. And if you can't relate to that, do you even have a heart? Do you like watching copious amount of blood leak from your television? Do you like watching things grow flesh that probably shouldn't have flesh on them? Do you like Debbie Harry from Blondie? How about public access television? Well, my next selection has all of it, so you're in luck. I'm talking about Videodrome. A true Cronenbergian masterpiece. I just made up a new word, Cronenbergian. It'll be in the dictionaries. Oh my god, I'm gonna be so famous. Now, I can't tell you what Videodrome is truly about, because I've seen it probably a good 25 times, and each time I take something new away from it. But it is a feast for the eyes to see. It'll blow your goddamn mind, and you'll feel smart watching it. Plus, that sequence with the television and it like starts throwing that gun and aims at him and... Oh, I'm not wearing nails. Oh well. Videodrome! Check it out! Do you believe in witches? Well, I certainly do. My next selection for number 7 is Suspiria. Forgive this kind of garbagely taken care of release. I ordered it used, and in doing so, there was quite a bit of water damage. So whoever I bought this on eBay from, I hate you. It was cheap. What can I say about Suspiria that hasn't been talked about a million times before? I mean, its color palette literally was the inspiration for my interior decorating. It's a movie about a girl who comes to a German ballet school from America, who soon learns that this ballet school isn't really what she thought it would be, as there's murders everywhere, and a crazy score that's like... Witch. And then at the end you discover, well, I'm not going to go into spoilers here, but the lush color palette, the horrifying scenes, the fact that it's directed by an Italian master of horror called Dario Argento. If you don't know who he is, look him up. And also, if you don't know who he is, why are you watching this video? Of course I'm trying to teach you things, but I'm also going to shame you in the process. At the end of the day, I just really want you to watch Suspiria, learn from it, and love it. Plus, if you want a movie that adds a little bit more substance than style, which clearly isn't really my forte, but hey, you might enjoy that, the 2017 remake of Suspiria is pretty damn good too. Remember before when you were talking about public access television and Videodrome and how, no? Okay, good, neither do I. Anyways, this is our transition into my next movie selection about television again. It's called Terrorvision! Ignore the video dead. Terrorvision! The video dead isn't bad, I just don't really remember it. Terrorvision! Terrorvision is pinnacle 80s. It has everything that every MTV video could ever have hoped for. Big hair, a lush, beautiful mansion, swingers, aliens coming out of your television set to try and take over the world. I can't really speak highly enough of Terrorvision and how much fun it is to watch. I found it at my local video store for $8 in a 2-pack that comes with the video dead, which, once again, I don't fucking remember it. But Terrorvision was so worth it to me, and I didn't expect to love it as much as I do. And I hope when you watch it, you kind of feel that same thing that I did with it. And then talk to me about it, because no one's seen this goddamn movie. You know how we all see those men that we're kind of ashamed to admit that we would fuck? Well, mine is Rob Zombie, which is why my number 5 selection is his first ever movie, House of a Thousand Corpses. It references the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Spider Baby, and it watches like an hour-and-a-half version of a Rob Zombie music video. Now, House of a Thousand Corpses certainly is not as great as the movies that he would eventually direct, like The Devil's Rejects or Lords of Salem. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that Rob Zombie knows his horror. But it all started with this magical little piece of cinema. Plus, it introduced me to the line, getting fucked up and doing fucked up shit. And Sherry Moon Zombie plays Baby Firefly, who is my very favorite female horror character. She's just such an ultimate badass. And Sherry Moon liked one of my photos on Instagram, which practically means we're best friends. Call me. I promise I won't fuck your husband. Okay, I would. But only with your permission. Clocking in at my number 4 is the follow-up to one of the all-time greatest camp slasher movies, Sleepaway Camp 2. Unhappy Campers. In this movie, Angela starts talking, unlike she really did in the first one, and in doing so, completely makes you fall in love with her as a villain, Somebody you can't wait to see kill the next person. She's so funny. She has more one-liners than Chucky. She's more brutal than Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. And she comes in this small, cute little package singing Kumbaya. What is not to love, or at least worth checking out? I'm gonna take a dark turn for my number 3, and I'm gonna take you back to Puritan New England. I'm talking about The Witch. The Witch spoke to me on such a personal level when I first saw this movie, introduced me to the concept of Satanism, and showed me that there's nothing wrong with living how you want to live. I love Thomason's story arc in this movie so much. When her family gets kicked out of their community in Puritan New England for being too religious, she starts realizing their flaws, all aided by the Black Phillip character, who's revealed at the end to be, well, Satan, and watching them die for their sins one by one in increasingly brutal ways. It showed that, at the end of the day, does it really matter how pious you are if you can just strip and party naked with your best friends? The Witch taught me that, and The Witch taught me to love myself. I'm so happy that my number 2 in recent years has caught more of a win than it ever has. I'm talking about Fred Decker's 1980s classic, Night of the Creeps. Now, you've seen 2006's Slither. If not, you should probably check that one out too. But anyway, Slither learned everything that it possibly could have known from Night of the Creeps. Night of the Creeps is such a throwback to 1950s campy sci-fi movies like Tarantula or The Thing from Another World. It opens with a shot of these black and white little aliens running around and landing to Earth and infecting this teenage couple who's about to have sex in their car, and then they discover what it is and then cryogenically freeze them until the 80s, where somebody uncryogenically freezes them and they start running amok and creating mutant zombies walking around, and eventually the whole town is covered in zombies and this sorority party's going on and they really just want to have a good time, but they can't because there are zombies everywhere. And anyway, it's topped off with the amazing detective character. Wait, what's his name? What is this detective's name? As you can tell, I clearly love this movie. Okay, I can't remember the detective's name, but he keeps on shouting his famous one-liner, "Thrill me." And he's like oozing with like this weird sex appeal of like an old man that you shouldn't have a crush on, but do. But really, Night of the Creeps is just fun 80s cheese camp B-movie greatness. Now it's time for my number 1. Not number 11, number 1. It's an all-time classic of the horror genre. We've all seen it, and it scares the living hell out of all of us. I'm talking, of course, about Legally Blonde 2? That's not right. Now I'm talking about The Shining! Now, I wish I had my own individual copy of The Shining, but because I am a pretentious film nerd, I have the Stanley Kubrick collection because, yes, I am better than you. Just kidding. Kinda. The Shining. What can be said about The Shining that hasn't been said a million times before? There's so much to unpack with this one, but I love this movie because when I was a kid, I was introduced to Stanley Kubrick because my parents told me to never watch A Clockwork Orange. So I read A Clockwork Orange. I fell in love with A Clockwork Orange. I bought A Clockwork Orange, and A Clockwork Orange was confiscated from me. But I remembered Stanley Kubrick's name, and so I started watching movies like Barry Lyndon in 2001: A Space Odyssey. One day we went on a family vacation in this old house and we were scrolling through the channels and we found out that The Shining was playing on television, and my mother was like, "I don't care what you watch, but you better make sure to not watch The Shining." So of course I watched The Shining, and I was scared absolutely shitless. But I remember that feeling so well and so vividly that it kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world of horror movies, and I started discovering that I loved being scared. The Shining, of course, is about Jack Torrance, played by the iconic Jack Nicholson, who gets hired as the caretaker for this old hotel called the Overlook. And so he takes the job and he brings his family with him, and for whatever reason, be it the fact that his kid is a total loser who doesn't have any friends his own age and keeps talking to his imaginary friend, Tony, Danny isn't him, Mrs. Torrance. Or maybe it's because his wife makes these disgusting looking bologna sandwiches and always smokes a cigarette but never fucking ashes it. Whatever the reason is, he goes absolutely mad and starts killing them. I'm sure that you know, if you've been in quarantine for as long as I have at this point, that you know what it's like to want to kill people. Anyway, Jack isn't a good person. The Shining has imprinted itself on American consciousness for so many reasons. It's an amazing movie. The set design is haunting. It takes place in an area where we can all relate to being. We've all been in a creepy old hotel. Is it about what Stephen King originally intended it to be? As in, like, Jack Torrance's alcoholism and how it tears a family apart? But really, who can blame him? Because if I don't have a drink in 3 months and I'm staying alone in a room with like 3 other people, I'll start to go a little mad myself. Or is it about American colonialism and the racist destruction that caused? Or is it about the fact that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing? Truly, we will never know. What we do have is this classic piece of American cinema that for 50 plus years has been making audiences fall in love and fear for their lives. And what is horror truly for, if not to haunt you for the entirety of your life and to make you think about what scares you? And that's what makes The Shining my pick for my #1 go-to horror movie. Now, what movies would you guys like to see me babble on unintelligibly about? What horror movies did you fall in love with as a kid that you want to see me talk about? Do you have any friends? Oh, sorry, that's for a different video. Leave me a comment below, and I promise that if I like the movie that you recommended, I'll totally review it. Until next time, I want you guys to all drink a beer, pet your cat, and worship the devil. My name has been Sylvia'S, and this is Horrorgasmo Reviews. Hey heathens, it's Sylvia'S. Make sure to follow me on social media, and like, share, and subscribe if you like it. If you don't, then I guess my name is actually James Mansfield. Okay, see you later.